Greetings, heroes. Thank you for joining us once again for our next episode of the Mythia campaign, episode 5. We really hope you enjoy this one. Let's get started. All right. So, as you drink hot cocoa and Dom regales you with tales, the alcohol begins to hit the first of you, and you all, some of you, head towards sleep, but not wrong. Triss seems tired from the day. She asks permission to head to... Captain, do you mind if I head down to my cot?
Sure.
She says, I just know that there's going to be a lot of things that need to be fixed.
Everything alright? Jessica?
Mm-hmm. You see her eyes flick over towards Jennifer.
She's scared of me? Can I roll insight to see if she's scared?
Roll a disadvantage insight check. You haven't directly interacted much with this.
I mean, I was going to roll an insight check, so...
You may roll with advantage. You know this well.
Okay. Much different. 16. 23.
Jennifer, you see a shy woman. There could potentially be some feelings towards you, but you're not getting that. There is definitely a history between Jennifer... I'm sorry, not between Jennifer, between Triss and Godmothers. Maybe not Jennifer, but there's something about that power that she's concerned about.
I'll ask you more about this later. I'll expect an answer.
She knows. This guy. All right. She heads downstairs. Prongor is going to go over and, tap the barrel. This one's out, he says. He puts his tin cup beneath the next cask and is going to take a little more big swirl. Alright. And do any of you particularly converse in a significant manner?
Are you still awake?
Yeah, he looks. He gets sleepy.
Gotcha. So you look knackered.
Yeah, he looks like he's nodding off every now and then.
Okay. Oh, June was going to start a conversation with you.
But he's refusing to go to sleep also. He's refusing to go to his bed. He's just still sitting there with everybody.
So you were reading a book about pirates earlier?
Oh, yes.
Anything interesting?
Not that I can remember right now. I found it at Harper's before I left.
Ah. He has a surprisingly good collection, doesn't he?
Yeah, I try to take something different every time I go out. I took a couple fiction books too. I never read those, so figured why not.
You prefer histories?
Usually. I mean, for a long time it was tactical this, war this.
June attempts to hide the surprise on her face when you say that.
He doesn't notice shit.
I'm aware. I wouldn't have pegged you for a history reader. Tactics, yes. Makes sense.
Tactics are in history. What were you reading earlier?
Oh, nothing terribly interesting. She pulls it out and she shows you it's in an incomprehensible language and it looks like squiggly lines to you. She goes, it's just a book about magic.
Oh.
Can I see? Hero asks.
Sure. Do you read Arcantic?
No.
Well, it's going to be a bunch of squiggly lines to you too, bud.
Is there interesting squiggly lines? He says.
Damn. Alright.
She shrugs.
You put the retort. Alright.
I didn't mean to say that your book wasn't interesting. I just meant that I've...
Do you, man? That was great. I love that.
That's not me.
I love that.
So that's not me.
No, that was
I'm not
awesome.
that guy.
That was
that
awesome.
Guy? Who was that guy?
He says, that's loudmouth. He says, it's one of my neighbors. He says, I'm more like a average Joe guy. He says.
Then why isn't your name Average Joe?
It may as well be.
Yet you're here. Not necessarily average, would you say?
Everybody gets affected by fate.
That is true.
Be that the truth.
Some more than others, it would seem. She's watching him loll his head about.
Shadow is going to, put her head where he sort of, misses the box and then, runs into her head. And then he sort of, lays there for a moment before, rolling back the other way. Have you guys traveled a lot in your lives?
Are you serious?
You super muse at his
I don't know about this one, but I mean, it's all we do. I'm sure you've been everywhere, I know it.
Have you been around often?
I've been around most of the continent. Yes.
Inland as well?
Some. A little less, to be honest. Most of my sailing's been on the seas.
What's your favorite place you've been?
Abutting the Devil's Ice.
Oh,
Mm.
that's really far out. Why were you all the way out there? Sometimes you have to go places, Polly says.
Sometimes you do, she says, looking at her. That's a tale for another time.
How close did you get?
Well, clearly I didn't touch it.
Well, no, you still have your limbs intact and your body, it's there. I'm assuming your soul is still inside.
That's debatable.
Captain's braver than a horde of giants, Jenny says.
There's bravery and then there's stupidity to touch things like that.
Well
I
said.
assume she's not that one.
I find the two tend to coexist. She looks right at you. No, we were there on an errand. Close enough to feel something terrible emanating from it. Not close enough to get sick.
That's good.
Have you been?
I've seen it, yes.
And how close did you get?
I'm alive, at least.
Why is everybody so mysterious all the time? Hero asks.
It adds to our allure.
Of course. Don't you know lady is always mysterious?
Not me.
You're not a lady, dear.
I'm not a lady.
I mean,
I've been with ladies that weren't mysterious at all.
I'm not really what you'd call a proper lady. But we pirates have our own mystery, and our own code and secrets.
Heard about that? About Shanghai and working.
That's not particularly something I practice. It does happen.
So, your crew wasn't Shanghai.
Certainly not by me.
I was Shanghai, but not by the captain, Johnny says. I'm actually from Selenox originally.
I always forget that, Johnny.
Lowport. We lost our home, though.
When did that happen?
A long time ago.
How long?
What does it matter?
Just curious. I think you're the only other one here who's from Selenox.
I lived in a shithole. No, I don't.
She raises her glass when she says shithole. Knocks it back.
So what about you, Isaac? Have you traveled much?
I've been from Selenox to Bridgewalk and most places in between. You said you sailed close to Vars, right? Did she say Vars?
She said the ice.
The devil's
Yeah.
eyes.
Devils, I should
Okay.
mention.
So, the edge of travelable space.
Between
So-
bars, right?
No, all around.
All around.
More, I would say
Could be
more
anywhere.
like what, like north of the Embers more, maybe? Or...
The ice you traveled to was south of the
I don't know
giant
directions.
steps.
Okay.
Oh, damn.
He says he's been from Selenox to Bridgewalk in most notable locations between the two. And now the
There are
first time.
notable locations between Selnox and Bridgewalk.
Who is that?
Hero.
Hero? Damn, with the
Actually,
zingers.
actually, June will laugh. She goes,
with the
He's got you
zingers
there.
tonight. Ah.
Can he think
Oh.
of anything notable between the two? It was mostly just small villages, right?
Cross
I mean,
is
the
the only
mud
thing,
holes that
basically.
you traveled through on your way. The canyon that separates, like goes underneath the Witch Fen, maybe is significant as travel route.
Or geographic.
Or the Thousand Needle Marsh, I'm sorry, not the Witch Fen.
Yeah.
Okay.
But wait, from Selenox to Bridgewalk, I mean,
You
don't
would
you
have
go through the
had-
Enchanted Forest and such?
No, you would probably follow the trade road, which goes up.
I should know this.
You should know.
Oh,
really should know
Sorry, wrong direction again.
The city of the elves, the Elven King over there. That area is significant, but it's pretty far south of the road.
Always going south for some reason.
I have to say, Bridgewalk was one of the most pleasant places I've ever stayed.
They've got some interesting bars right up abutting the sea.
That they do. And a couple gnomes.
I've always loved Bridgewalk.
I like Bridgewalk.
It has a fascinating start story. Do you all know how it started?
No idea.
She goes,
He's totally wasted, isn't he?
not that I think you'll really remember this tomorrow, Roland, but for the rest of us.
Anya is slowly scooching closer to Roland.
Oh, yeah.
Not noticing shit.
It actually popped up completely out of nowhere by fate. The very first winter child came about, and slowly people started traveling there. They got word. They sent out runners to all the other kingdoms offering safe harbor to every race. It was the first place to ever include and accept everybody. Before, it was all segregated. Only the Dragonborn lived in Garen. The humans were practically savages. Halflings were brand new.
So you're talking ancient history.
Oh, yes.
What she was talking about is at the start of the books.
I am.
Says, you're an ancient historian then.
I love history and all of its locations.
Might have more to talk about. Belle says.
So, what do you know about the history of the Crystal Forest?
Well, the Crystal Forest is the center of Mythia, center of Ignos. Yunjasi set up his lair there originally. He claimed it first because fate is strongest in the center. It has always been crystal. I don't know why.
Have you been?
Yes, I have.
Inside?
There's a reason I think I'm here.
What's he like?
A great curmudgeon. He won't like any of you, I promise, but
He's not gonna kill us, is he?
no, of course
It's
not.
impossible.
Well, as long as you don't, ruin his home or steal anything. He is a dragon, after all. They don't take well to theft. Especially Yen. She actually gets a very concerned look on her face. Clearly it's weighing on her that he might be hurt.
Captain, we may want to address, Elephant Jackal in the room. He says,
Go ahead.
Seeds. He says, looking towards you. By mere experience, you know exactly what he's talking about, that you've never seen before. You know what he's talking about because you keep up with that kind of illicit stuff. Injasti has these basically crystalline pine cones that are giant seeds that fall and spawn the crystal trees. They go on the black market for a lot of money. And usually the rumors are that thieves went into the crystal forest to try to get some of these seeds, and Injasti killed them. So he wants to basically lay down some kind of order on not taking the seeds.
Oh, yes. I think June would pop in immediately. She says, yes, that would be a very poor idea.
I don't think any of my crew would be stupid enough to steal from a dragon.
Ian does steal quite harshly. And it is his right. It is his lair.
What do you think could have injured a dragon? A dragon like him?
I don't know.
Do we know it's an injury?
Something.
My guess is it has something to do with, well, the prophecy itself. The reason it was so odd. I never felt anything quite like it. It hurt. Prophecy's not supposed to hurt. I almost passed out.
It hurt. All answers.
Yes,
I thought the prophecies were very specific.
they are usually. And every other one I've ever heard of in my entire life.
So we have to have a free prophecy. She gives you a meaningful look.
Where do the prophecies come from?
What do you mean?
Of the unjust. All answers.
The way I understand it is he directs them, not necessarily gives them. Fate itself is what does it.
Trish is going to speak up for the first time. She says, what if it's his crown?
That has also been theorized for often, but technically, fate existed before the crown.
Doesn't he channel the fate through his crown? Hero asks.
It allows him to channel it more readily, more easily.
Maybe it's broken. She asks, or it's broken.
June pales considerably at that thought, and she goes, if that's the case, then it's not good.
Could you fix it? Straight at you. Could you fix it?
June actually just straight up laughs when you say that. I'm sorry, Isaac. Not a meaning to belittle your abilities, but... So, what exactly do you do in Salamax when you're not being a terrorist? She gives you a grin. Obviously, she's making light of it.
Can we put that to rest? Hero says. I mean...
Has it been put to rest?
Well, I can't be a terrorist there if I'm here with you all, right? I've got enough eyes on me, making sure that I'm staying in line. I don't think it'll be a problem.
Hero rolls his eyes. You're not a terrorist.
You're right.
How can you be so sure?
Because he doesn't... He's not... I just am.
Well, I think his sense of judgment is as good as anyone's.
Right. Very good judgment.
So what happened then? Are you going to be almost furious?
No.
She winks at you when he says that.
But I will finish this hot cocoa, he says, and he'll finish off what's in his cup. Oh, that was wonderful. He puts it down.
She just does this, and it sails back over to her, and then you might hear her mutter something quietly under her breath, and it just cleans out, sparkling clean, and she levitates it into her bag.
Has the beetle just been sitting there this whole time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One cup after another goes down of different varying liquids as the lantern begins to burn low.
As a side note, Juno's gone through 3 of her hot chocolates that are that big in the time.
Oh my god. Okay.
And she also pulled out a plate of cookies.
Does she use a straw, or does she just, sip on it?
That one. Although she did use a spoon originally to get the whipped cream on.
Dom is going to, fistful the cookies. He's gobbling. But politely gobbling.
Roland would take a cookie, but you'd see him falling asleep with it in his hand all the time, sometimes with, some cookie in his mouth, chewing.
Roland,
and then,
dear, why don't you go to bed?
I think I'll join.
I think that's a good idea.
He is in bed, isn't he? We're all sitting on stuff here.
Yeah, but my bed's his bed's 4 feet behind us against the wall. He falls off the crate and kind of just rolls himself over.
Is Hero still sitting there?
Yeah, but he's kind of standing up and brushing off his legs.
Gotcha, okay.
Shall we call it a night?
Would probably be wise.
Honestly, this is pretty late for me, Hero says. It's 9.
Do you set night watches?
I'll be taking the ship through the door, Dom says.
How about I sit up with you for a time?
Oh, certainly. I'd like to discuss that history that you were speaking of.
Of course.
I'm sure.
I actually have a few things to add to you about your tale about the Phoenix.
He says, really? Marvelous. All right. And you guys head to your sleeping quarters.
She'd grab Bolly beforehand and pull her into her room to chat.
Okay.
How'd our chess game go?
Roll an intelligence check.
+0 to intelligence. 14.
Dom beats your ass.
I bet.
Juna's been
Hope
following
it
the
was in
game.
front of everybody.
This was during the day, so probably.
Oh, never. Was it in the middle?
It was late in the day.
Yeah.
Okay, I totally would have followed the match.
Okay.
She was inscrutable. She
I have
didn't
one
make
other
any
question.
commentary.
Yeah.
So given my ability to see into structures, what do I think of this ship now that I've been on it for a bit?
The ship appears to be made out of a very light wood from a tropical island. And is explicitly fast and light. Like a graceful dancer. It is just the size to cut through narrow rivers. But she would have difficulty facing a large galley ship.
Okay.
Although you have also noticed that there is some kind of secret compartment below the deck that you haven't seen into yet.
Could I think of ways to improve the ship? Or start thinking on that?
Go ahead and roll an investigation check.
I'll spend inspiration on this. I don't want to see me to go all night without using it. Oh, sorry. 15.
15. No.
Okay. It's a damn fine ship. I under my breath to myself.
You
She
stay
could've
up
heard
late
that.
with Dom as he sails the rivers, explaining how he used to do this as an act of rebellion in his youth. And you all talk about history and the span of the world.
She mentions that he should read a book about lost races of Mythia. It's an extremely old and barely in print book, but she thinks she can get a copy for him at some point.
Price is no object, he says.
I'll lend it to you.
He says,
It's priceless.
oh, it's yours. I thought it would be from our old bookshop.
I haven't seen this one in shops. It's been out of print for about 1,000 years or so.
To hand it down?
Of course. I have quite a lovely library.
He says, excellent. I have a little library myself back home. Go ahead and roll up a charisma check, please.
Oh, she's tired. 6.
You guys, that night, as you lay in your cot, falling between sleep and awake, you hear a great voice across the distant divide of the world. Where is Puppet Master?
Is it that voice?
It is. You hear a response. Puppet Master is on River 512, traveling with Firstborn.
Is that it?
Keep watch. That is a dangerous pairing. You hear back and forth. Yes, is the response. And then a continued drone of reporting small, inane facts that you can't place.
It's like listening to a police scanner.
Yes,
Okay.
very much. You wake, vaguely remembering the words that you heard.
Only him, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Roland, roll a Constitution check.
Oh shit, I'm doing great.
You're over it.
I'm
You
doing
wake up with that magical no hangover. You're also doing quite well on the boat rocket. The next day is mostly boring. Dom, yes.
I will say this. How early do you wake up?
Usually with the sunrise.
Okay.
She wakes up looking kind of rough.
Do you come out
Yes.
shortly after you wake up?
Yes. She goes in usually to chat with Dom and just get a report and see what's going on.
How early do you wake up?
June didn't go to bed.
June didn't go to bed. Did you stay out the whole night with Dom?
Yeah.
How early do you get up?
Daniel, when did the voices stop?
They stop at a vague somewhere in the middle of your slumber.
Okay.
You think you sort of rise up. It's almost like rising out of a pool of water. As you slowly approach the surface, the light touches you more and more until you break out the surface of the water.
Okay. In that case, I think he would have woken up in the middle of the night and he would have just been up the whole time.
Would you have stayed in your bed or your room all morning?
He would be there. He would stay in there until he hears commotion on the rest of the ship.
Well, then you would have watched him wake up with the sunrise because he was outside. And Roland's routine of waking up on trip is he immediately starts stretching. Like he doesn't even get up. He just kind of rolls into stretches on the ground. And then he gets up and stretches a little bit more. And then you just see him start just working out.
June does not seem surprised or alarmed.
Yeah, but
Especially considering...
it's like
Yeah.
you see him just go through this whole morning routine.
Is he fully dressed?
No, he's probably just wearing pants. And
She's going to step out, watch for a minute, and go straight to Johnny's quarters.
All right.
Johnny, you don't want to miss this. Trust me.
So let's. We're going to start moving a little faster on the boat. Obviously, there's a bunch of days that we got to get through, and I don't want to hold us up here too long. So, some generic stuff. In the morning, Prongor is going to comb his hair and put on his blue arm. I'm concerned, Master, that these folk need to be impressed.
We're in the company of...
What should I do if they start asking questions about us?
The same thing you always do when people start asking questions. It's a situation you're well versed in, Prongor.
He nods. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page, he says. Will we be doing any more work on the constructs as we sail?
Probably not until the next time we stop. I think we've gotten as far on them as we can.
He nods. I don't know all these little Garen high towns, he says. But I imagine that they have, well, tools.
Hopefully. Surely.
He looks about as well kept as you've ever seen him. He's going to turn around. What do you think, Mister? He says.
You look quite sharp, Prongor.
I
appreciate you putting your best foot forward for this.
He nods. He goes, well, I'm not wearing my best foot. My good boots are in the bag, he says.
Well, Prongor, in commemoration of this new adventure, I got you a gift before we left. And Isaac will reach into his bag and pull out a small gift box and hand it to him.
Aww.
He goes, you see, his eyes start to get a little watery as he reaches out. He's going to quickly just tear off the wrap paper and then use his big arm to lift up the very tiny box lid.
I notice you've been dressing nicer since arriving in Garen. And so I thought you might like this, and it's a small bottle of cologne.
He goes, this is too much, he says. It is... I am not worthy of such a gift.
It's a small gift.
He says,
and you've done more than enough to earn it.
It may be small, but your generosity is so great, he says.
Now that we're traveling as a pair, we need people to know that we truly come as a pair. They almost didn't let you on the ship.
I see, Master. My appearance is, of course, a reflection on you.
Exactly.
Well, I shall stay as prim as a peacock, he says.
That's what I like to hear.
He's going to sort of like... There we go.
And just one spray. Don't overdo it.
He goes... One spray.
Perfect.
It's very tasteful, Master, he says.
I
It
think
gives me
you're
a musky, masculine scent.
Well, yes, and he thinks he didn't need any help with that.
He says, well, I shall keep it as a treasured possession. He's going to carefully place it in his personal belongings bag.
Well, now that you're all dressed up, how about we go find that godmother? I have a few questions for her.
Of course, Master. Right? So you stayed up all night with Dom. And you certainly talked through a lot of history, but he is going to give up the wheel at this point.
She didn't stay there the entire night. She did occasionally go off, and she seemed to be looking at herself in a mirror.
Okay. Unfortunately, you didn't find what you wanted to.
That's fair.
You, what do you do when he heads off to sleep?
She is going to edge around the guy who is vigorously exercising and go sit where she sat the other day on the mast. Not the mast, the front of the ship where you sit. The Titanic place. I can't remember what it's called.
Right.
Bow?
Bow. That's the word. June would know that. Sarah doesn't.
Okay. The great fields and small, sparse woodlands that spread out to either side are going to pass by quickly as the Outrunner makes good time down the morning river.
June has an absurdly large book that is hovering in front of her, away from prying eyes. She's got her back to the bow, back to the bow, and it's like hovering in front of her. She's avidly reading something, and you see her pull out a quill from behind her ear that wasn't there a second ago, make a notation, and then put it back, and it's gone again.
All right. Go ahead and tell me how you react. You were going to speak with Jennifer.
Uh-huh.
You're up on deck. You approach.
So the phrase I heard was firstborn, right?
That's correct.
I'll walk up and kind of politely make a...
Oh. The book slams closed. She stops for a second, blows. Clearly the ink is drying, and she just does this. It slams closed, and then it into nothing. Sorry, yes?
I won't take up too much of your time, but I had a quick question. Between us, this is secret. Does the
She
phrase
glances around.
firstborn mean anything to you?
In what regards?
In regards to someone on this ship being known as the firstborn.
Well, I mean, it could be anyone who was born first in the family, like an eldest, or is there a context?
So it has no significance to you just as a title. An existing name for maybe a historical figure.
Can I think of anything that would bring that about? Other than the obvious?
No.
Okay.
I mean, there are plenty of kings that had the title.
Yes, but like on the ship.
You don't... Roland isn't firstborn of his family,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know about Euphemia.
She goes, where did you hear it? Or read it, or whatever.
You're a godmother. You understand how important dreams can be. was just having some strange dreams last night. That's all.
Hero might be a firstborn.
What else was in the stream?
That's it.
Just the word firstborn?
Yes.
How was it delivered?
Voices.
Do you remember them? Do you recognize them from real life?
No. As most dreams go, it's all vaguey and fuzzy after you wake up, but I do remember that phrase.
I don't know, but I'll look into it.
I appreciate it.
Of course.
Won't waste any more of your time. Go back to your reading.
No time to waste.
And he will let you be.
She seems quite thoughtful as you walk away.
Okay.
All right. The crew seems shy-ish around the newcomers. Bali seems annoyed with your new direction a little bit. But Dom doesn't. Which may or may not strike you as weird. So how do you deal with the disconcerting problems that are arising in your crew as you sail on the river?
In terms of them being uncomfortable with the new people on board and Bali being pretty pissed off about us.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why she would have taken Bali aside that night and talked with her in her cabin.
What did you all talk about?
They would have discussed the people on board, probably a little cattily, like they usually do. She would have expressed hope, I think, that clearly the Crystal Forest is probably as far as they have to go, and then they can just drop them off and leave.
Okay, roll an advantaged persuasion check.
Okay.
Jennifer, it looks like you have at least a burgeoning relationship with Dom.
20.
How do you two continue to develop that as you sell it?
20.
20? Okay. All right. I'll deal, she says.
It's not for much longer. I don't think.
That's what I'm worried about.
We can always just kick them off the ship.
That's
We
how it
could.
Works. You said so yourself.
I can't let them distract us for too long. If it's going on too long, I'll step in.
Promise.
I promise.
All right. Thank you.
You know I want to get done what we need to get done.
I know. And we will.
Yes, we will.
All right, Jennifer.
June actually will challenge him to a game of chess, remembering theirs.
All right. Roll it.
Oh, man.
21.
You beat his ass.
Yeah!
He seems a little frustrated with the ass beating.
She goes,
You are an exceptional opponent.
oh, I've been playing since for a very long time.
So have I, he says. I have never quite been so handedly beaten, though.
I will have to try again later. I'm sure you'll beat me next time. She
Isaac
might
is pretty
just
good.
be being polite.
He says. We'll play again, certainly.
Maybe I should play Isaac.
Do you have any more of those sweets?
Oh, of course.
Ooh, wonderful.
Oh, yes. I think they would probably bond over their sweet tooth, since he clearly has one.
You are correct. He does.
Yes, so she starts making him delightful sweet beverages and treats, and she seems to have a never-ending supply of the stuff.
You're a wonderful friend.
It also gets to the point where you guys are probably going to start noticing that she literally doesn't eat anything except sweets.
And hot chocolate.
That's a sweet.
It's a sweet.
Okay.
So in the morning when they're making up, like, breakfast or
She's
fish
having
or anything
cake.
like that.
A whole cake, by the way.
When she's drinking tea, does she like put in a fistful of sugar cubes?
No, that is the one thing she doesn't screw with. She thinks it's wrong to add sugar to tea.
Okay.
It ruins the flavor.
She
Unless it's
appreciates-
meant
She
to be sweet.
appreciates the tea.
Yes, unless it is meant to be sweet
10
and it's
and
only
20.
accentuated by it, she won't add it.
So, as you develop your relationship, another relationship is developing. Johnny is going
Oh
to get
my
her first
God.
sword lesson. She swings it like a freaking hammer. She's like,
Why?
and you're like, okay, let's start at the beginning. How are you as a teacher of weapons?
About as good as Harper.
Are you?
Wow.
Well, I mean, because he taught me. So
Yeah, but
I
there's
just-
a difference between learning and teaching.
Well, but I mean, the way he taught me that's like I'm generically Harper. Like,
Okay, go ahead and roll a wisdom check.
So-
We'll let the dice determine.
20.
Okay, yeah, you're pretty damn good. She is,
And I've also trained a bunch of other soldiers and shit. So
by the end of the day, she has not subtly dropped some rather flirtatious lines that have gone right over your head. And at one point, her stance was like really weird. So you sort of like moved her hip to one side, and from the upper dock, you see her as she sort of like moves. Is that right? She says. She moved back. You push her hip back in place. She goes, thanks.
Yuffie and Bali would be cracking up there watching them.
Oh, it's fantastic.
But she is improving until the next day, where she says a line that's just a little too far.
Oh.
Even you notice it.
You're saying that she should practice right before she goes to sleep. And she says, well, maybe after that you could help me with other techniques.
such as.
I don't know, whatever you want. I'm willing to do anything. What's wrong?
This isn't gonna happen.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean. And I like you. I think you're cool, but this isn't gonna happen.
Roll an intimidate check.
Damn bad. 6?
She's super intimidated.
He's just being shy.
You're just encouraging her. She likes the shy ones.
It's about the chase, dear.
It is. Oh, it is.
She's going to pat your cheek. I guess we're done now. She puts the sword back.
Yep.
Okay.
He,
How does that relationship change immediately?
is this the first day?
This is
Second day.
This is the second
the
day?
second day of training. So third
Second day of training. The next morning, you notice Roland is working out with a shirt on.
Okay.
Resistance training is
During the
like
second
full
day,
armor.
June wants to talk to Hero.
Okay.
And learn a little more about him, since she hasn't had time.
Hero is a man of simple pleasures. Gardening, bacon pies, family seem to be his three most talked about and enthusiastic topics.
June is actually very knowledgeable about gardening, and she talks about her garden and how she did it all herself, and she's very proud of it.
Okay, awesome.
Yuffie probably would have left occasional slices of the blueberry pie, like where Hero is sleeping, so that he could have some at night.
Okay, awesome. But yeah, you have a long conversation about you learn, a little bit more about modern meat culture throughout the process. Probably goes on for 45 minutes.
She would also get the lowdown on his entire family. which I'm sure he'd be happy to talk about. She will...
He goes,
One way to pass the time.
Oh, she's a very good listener.
well, I was visiting my cousin and my aunt, he said. My cousin is feed ducks. And,
Feed ducks.
he says, my aunt is long years. My mother is healthy, he says.
That's a good one.
He nods. He says, we've always been very pleased with that fate. Yeah. Oh man, I wrote down his whole family. Hang on a minute.
You don't actually have to go
Okay.
through all of them.
So he's going to start talking about it, his
It's more
family.
along the
in-
lines of June does this. You don't have to tell me right
like, in great detail, he describes, like, each and every weirdo in his family. And then, except he's going to say, at one point, you're going to talk about, like, siblings. And he goes, oh, I have a brother. But he hasn't talked about him at all. And then...
A brother?
Oh. Yeah. He doesn't live with us.
I'm sorry to hear that. She can clearly read that he's distressed by that. Insight to see if he wants to talk or if he wants to clam up.
What's your passive?
My passive is 15.
You sense that it is a sensitive topic, that you would have to... You don't think he's, like, heavily opposed to talking about it, but it's not something he's just going to, like, blurt out. You would have to show interest.
She would. She is interested. She finds him to be an interesting and needed member of the group, so she wants him to be comfortable.
I need to know if you are...
She's sincere.
You're sincere. Okay. He says, my brother's name is Makes Monsters.
Ah, I see.
So, he does. There's a forest near Gantharan called the Meekwood.
I'm aware of it.
It is a fated land. One that is dangerous. Can be. The stronger you are, the weaker you become in the Meekwood. And the weaker you are, the stronger you become.
I see.
He lives in the Meekwood.
And because he's meek, I imagine he's quite strong there.
My brother is even smaller than I am. And
She-
a lot weaker.
Kind of looks at him and quirks her head, considering he's a fairly hefty little...
Yeah, he's pretty dense.
For Meeks, he's built.
He
Maybe still a
goes,
toothpick, but
he makes, it's a lot of what I deal with on a day-to-day basis.
she puts her hand on his shoulder.
Thank you. Thank you for caring.
Of course, why wouldn't I?
A lot of people, when they hear, they think, oh, that's cute. That's a problem.
She shakes her head.
I would love to try some more of your tea. It was
Of
very
course.
good.
My pleasure. Which one would you like? Would you like the same one, or do you want a different one?
I would let you try a different one every day
That's not a problem.
until, we run out of types.
I don't think that'll ever happen.
Oh, okay. Cool.
She smiles. She goes, I have a fairly vast collection.
Brongor walks up towards you.
Yes, Brongor.
A minute before. I'm going to see what the godmother thinks of us.
What do you mean, Prolor?
I suspect that she knows more than she's letting on. I'm going to use my wits to pry it out of her.
She's a godmother. I think she knows everything.
I'm going to see what everything includes. He says mysteriously as he heads over towards her.
He walks off and Isaac's just like,
Whatever. Yes,
Miss-
Prongor, what can I do for you?
Miss Godmother.
Jennifer, please.
Miss Jennifer.
She actually smiled.
I was wondering, have you ever been to someone else?
Of course I have.
Have you ever frequented the high halls of great families?
Not regularly, no.
Or deception?
Oh, by the way. Sorry.
For what?
I would like to roll for inspiration.
Oh, okay.
Cool. That's
Go ahead.
Apparently, I'm really bad at lying today. 8.
Right. I see. Thank you. He's going to turn and walk back towards you.
Well,
She's a
Prongor?
liar, master. He says, a bad one.
I see.
He says,
What did you ask her?
she's been spying on you. I can tell.
What did you ask her?
I asked if she'd ever been to the halls of the nobility, and she said no. But she actually meant yes.
She didn't say no. She says not often. Difference.
Prongor, he didn't
Fair.
get the subtlety.
Fair.
I see.
He says, I think that you may not have been part of this fake master, and instead have been lured here.
If so, this would be quite the elaborate trap.
It is.
Perhaps one befitting of someone such as myself.
Exactly.
I see where you're going with this.
He says,
I see the effort and thought Prongor has put into this, and so I'm not immediately shutting it down.
I'm going to go and ask Pirate.
Prongor, I feel as if the pirates will be a little bit less patient with your charm and wits.
I have a plan, Master. I will not ask them anything. Instead, I will go and search for secret rooms.
You think so? Do you think that you can do so unseen?
No, probably not.
Well, then how about you take the Revenant with you? Have him search.
A good plan, Master.
I already think there's one I've found. Where did I detect that secret room?
So you detected that there is some kind of open slot in the deck. There's like a box shape that's cut out. It clearly slides away.
Okay. I don't tell him about that, and I tell him to go look just as something to keep him occupied.
Are there any secret rooms on the ship?
I would say there's 1 or 2 secret passageways. One into her cabin, down to one of the other rooms below deck. And maybe a little side passageway, to leave the ship through, one of the windows in case they needed to, sneak out of the ship because they were being boarded or anything like that. So,
There are no secret rooms on the ship, Master.
Just after he's looked.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's that then, I guess.
He goes, so I don't believe the pirates are in on it. It's probably just the Godmother. She's
Fair
probably
assumption.
after everyone.
Everyone, you say?
Yes. Most likely.
I see. This is quite dire indeed.
I suggest we use the homunculus to spy on her.
Let's give it a day or two first.
Get her complacent, and then she'll trip up.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
He says, I wish that I was missing an eye, Master, so I could leave my eye that was fake here on the deck to watch her.
I think that might terrify people.
He says, it would have 2 benefits then.
Daniel, I would
we
like to
give
give
you
you an
inspiration?
inspiration.
Yeah, straight up, Daniel. F- off.
As you pass by a small town of Raken, you are going to see a port city capable of handling some medium-sized ships. But you skip right past it. Then the village of Highwheat, which is on the other side of the river, which you see huge farmlands spread out. While you are traveling past Highwheat, Roland, you are hanging off you're on the side of the deck that is next to Highwheat. So you like standing up and sort of like hanging off the edge of the ship, looking at the village. And you see coming up on, there's like docks sort of sticking out and the boat is sort of weaving through them pretty easily. And you see a lot of, children and such. And you see a group of young boys playing on the dock, excuse me. So the ship is sort of going slow so as not to make a mistake and rip a dock off or anything. And you see by their regalia that they are playing knights and monsters. So one of them has a big wooden sword, and the others have like little wooden hands that you can purchase pretty readily. And there's several knights and several monsters. And as you ride by, you hear one of the boys say, "I get to be Roland!" And you hear all the other ones go, "No, that's not fair, no! You always get to be Roland!" And he says, "I'm Roland." And then they all go, "Get him!" And they all gang up on him and run at him, rush him and knock him over.
Is anybody else watching this happen?
No.
He just laughs.
Sometime during our travel days, she's going to approach you again and ask if you heard any more about in your dreams.
Have I?
Every night.
Is it the same indistinct chatter? Or do I occasionally get bits of concise conversation?
You hear indistinctable chatter, although you occasionally do hear puppeteer and first member.
Okay. I just let you know that I've heard those phrases. I've heard that phrase.
Can I
Repeat
roll
it.
insight on you?
What are you trying to get insight into?
She wants to know if you're holding anything back.
Yeah, go off.
What's the DC?
I'm going to roll deception, and you have to beat it.
Okay.
It's hard.
Yep.
I rolled awful.
I rolled amazing. I crit. So,
You
25?
can tell that there's definitely more to my dreams, and I'm just telling you one thing about it.
She... I'm sorry, I rolled amazing.
That roll.
What did you roll?
2.
Oh, God.
All right, hang on. Before we get to the reveal of what Jennifer figures out, I'm going to go ahead and end it here for the time being, you guys. And make sure to like and subscribe. And remember, do try this at home.